Available on all streaming platforms. It's professional wrestling's greatest, largest, privately owned wrestling library. All the classic hits, flips, slams, and pins of yesteryear are on one place. It's Ultimate Classic Wrestling. Check out the Nature Boy Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Mr. USA Tony Atlas, Tito Santana, Rick Martel, a who's who of professional wrestling's greatest spotlight stars ever to grace the squared circle, all in one place. Grab the best seat in the house for memories and mayhem on Ultimate Classic Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, today I have Bubba White, known as Moondog Splat, and Goliath here with me today. Bubba, how are you today?
Good. What's yourself?
Good. Glad to have you. Thank you for joining me today. Let's talk a little bit about your career and how it started.
Oh, I guess I was tired of what I was doing, working, regular job, whatever. But I just wanted to make more money, and I started, hitting the gym again, and starting to train hard for it. And then I met the guy that was in wrestling before, and he gave me Guido's number, Guido Mongol, and went from there. I had a tryout as a hillbilly, probably maybe in like '85, November of '85, and didn't work out, whatever. But I came back to Pittsburgh, kept training, and all of a sudden I got Bruno, downtown Bruno, come up to me and said, "Hey, you want to go down? They're looking for a big guy down in Tennessee." So and then that's when I became Goliath. So I was '86. I broke my leg in '87.
So when you mentioned the Hillbillies, this is the WWF Hillbillies, Hillbilly Jim, Uncle Elmer.
Yeah, I was going to tag with Cousin Luke.
Okay, got you. He used to work the independent circuit up here a lot for the Savoldis, Northeast Championship Wrestling, stuff like that. Yep.
Yeah, I got to work on later on. I don't know what year it could have been, but we went to Union, Maine, and I was on the card as Goliath, and the next thing you know, I was the Mad Russian fighting Cousin Luke.
Was that for the Savoldis? Does that make sense? Was that for the Savoldis, maybe?
I don't know. It was at a racetrack. It was a carnival, and it was a racetrack, and they put the ring over by the bleachers of the racetrack, and they rode you out in a car. It was probably a good 400 or 500 feet, maybe, to where the ring was from where we were dressing at. So here I was the Mad Russian that night. So great match. We had a good match. We talked a little bit afterwards, and you came a long way since you had your tryout. I go, I was the same way when I had the tryout. So oops, I was the same way when we had the tryout. Just that I wanted to get the drop kick in, and I don't know if that hurt his feelings, but Vince McMahon and them, we were taking pictures and everything like that, and next thing you know, I wasn't getting any word from Cousin Luke that we were going to be together. And it's like, oh, okay, well, went back here, and hopefully then Goliath came along. So
yeah. So you mentioned downtown Bruno, and you were training. You went in first as Goliath in Memphis.
Yes.
Yeah.
With
what was it
downtown
like?
Bruno, we traveled together.
Yeah. What was that like working down there in Memphis?
Yeah, it's a new experience. It was the first, any organization for me. So I got to meet Jerry King Lawler, Jerry Jarrett. Eventually, I didn't meet him right away when I got in there, Jerry Jarrett, but Jerry King Lawler, we met at TV, and it was on from there.
Right. Right. Was let's see here. Oh, okay. So did you feud over with Crusher Blackwell over the CWA super heavyweight title?
Yeah,
Was
I
that
got to
yeah,
work against him. Yeah,
yeah,
and in Louisville, if I'm not mistaken,
in Louisville?
and
What
Nashville, and
Nashville? Okay.
Memphis. Yeah,
Okay. What was it like working with the Crusher?
I it's like anybody else, really. I mean, he was good. I mean, he was a hard worker. I mean, he definitely would give you a little bit of stiffness, but hey, that was part of the business, and we had a great match, and everything was fine with us anytime after that. So I worked Scott Hall down in Memphis too. Was for the same thing, the super heavyweight belt,
Right.
and it was a good match too. We had a great match in Memphis for that. So it was a shame what happened to Scott, but.
You feuded with Rocky Johnson and Soul Train Jones over the CWA tag titles. What was that like
Right.
working with those two guys?
Rocky was great. I
Yeah.
have never had a problem with Rocky. I worked them singly and as a tag team there. But
Yeah.
Virgil, man, he was. I don't know what his case was, but he just get overly bunctious and stiff,
Yeah.
and he had to get taught a lesson. I'm sure I'm not the only one that ever taught him a lesson, but it was nothing big. I mean, I just gave a boot to the face because I owed him, but he
Yeah.
opened
Yeah.
me up with an elbow to my mouth. My lip was bleeding all over the place. I was spitting blood, and it was a tag match against Jerry the King Lawler and Soul Train with me and Bubba, and I was pissed because he landed that right across my teeth. You know, things got a
Yeah.
little loose, but man, my lip was all opened up, and But
You,
hey, it wasn't like I was revengeful that bad. I could have been a lot
yeah.
worse.
You just, landed what he had coming to him basically. So,
Well, yeah, Jerry
yeah.
King Lawler in the match goes, "Ooh, payback's a bitch." And I looked over at Jerry. I said, "You're next." But Jerry got the face looking. I started, it was a great time. We had to actually be escorted out of the town, so it
Right.
was a great match, great time. So
Yeah. You mentioned Bubba. Now you're referring to Fred Ottman, correct?
Fred Ottman,
Typhoon.
Big Bubba, yeah, he
He
was Big
was
Bubba. I was Goliath, yeah.
Yeah, he was in there at that time. He, just inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year.
Okay.
Pretty much, absolute legend if you say so. I mean, Tugboat,
Oh yeah.
Typhoon, Big Steel Man. Yeah,
Uh, Great to say that I got a chance to tag with them, room with them, travel with them. So many funny stories of me and him together, but there was just so much. Me, him, and Bruno going up to Blytheville, Arkansas, and it was an ice storm. That was a night and a half. Uh, Bruno went over the side of the road and went down in a ditch, and we we had to climb this hill. The grass was all ice, the road was all ice, and finally, somebody picked us up. I think it was I can't remember their tag name, but they picked us up in a little Chrysler minivan. And we got to the show. There was maybe 30 people there. And it was just heck to get home. We went back another town and found a hotel room because we weren't going to drive in the ice. It was almost death defying, I guess, but it was a good time.
Now, Shawn and Marty came in. Shawn Michaels and Marty Janetty came in. They were the AWA Tag Team Champions. You also got a
Yeah,
chance to,
the world tag team champions. Yeah.
yep, you got a
And
chance to meet them as well.
we were the Southern Tag Team Champions of the AWA, CWA, whatever.
Yeah, yep,
And then we got the chance to wrestle them in Memphis.
yeah. What was that like working with those guys? I mean, it was
Oh,
kind of a size
high
difference.
flyer. I mean, the
Yeah,
high flyers. We keeping up with them. Me and Bubba
yeah,
was tagging it out. It was a great match. We talked to the guys later on, and hey, they were even Shawn Michaels was like, "Hey, big man, you can move, this and that." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm just out there trying to keep up, brother." But then when I met him again later on down in Wheeling, West Virginia, I went down there to see the wrestling match and got in the back door. And I was walking by, and he come out of the thing. And I go, "Hey, what's up, Shawn?" And he like looked at me, and Memphis, and then he walked away from me. That's all he said. I did he really remember me? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Now, of course, it was the affiliation with the AWA. Did you ever have a chance to go up to the AWA at all, or was that ever a thought or an
No,
opportunity?
if there was, it was I probably right around when I broke my leg, there might have been an option, but I think it was all going haywire at that point. Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond, they went up there, and I think they tagged with DDP.
Yep.
They got a chance to go up there, but then we worked against the Nasty Boys down in Memphis, and that they came through a little tour there, and then they were up there, and then I think it folded pretty much right after I broke my leg. Vince McMahon bought them all out, and
Yeah.
AWA was
But
done.
so it was like 88, 89, roughly around that time period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just getting back into in '88. I just started getting back into the indie circuit there, trying to get my leg, see how much it could hold up, and everything went fine. And I was trying
Yeah.
to get back in, had another try with the WWF again uh, when I was a Moondog, and that fell through. So
When you were a Moondog, you had the tryout?
yeah, I had a tryout with the WWF with Fred, and I got to work against Tito Santana. And I thought everything was, hey, okay, here's what's going on. The next day, I worked this guy from Cleveland. He was trying to break in. I don't know if he was being used as a jobber or whatever, but he was. I worked against him in the ring.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of his name. Anyway,
I don't have it.
young, light skinned black guy. Good body, good. Good worker. But
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't know if he didn't have enough size or. And the next day, it seemed like nobody talked to me. So next thing I come back home, and I went to South Africa. So,
Really? I don't
yeah.
have that here in my notes. Talk about going to South Africa. What was that like?
Mm.
Um, and what did you do over there?
I worked their guy Tiger Singh.
Okay.
He was their big guy, and they had two Tiger Singhs. Was what I found out as we were over there for a month.
Hmm.
We worked Johannesburg, Durban, uh, Cape Town, Sun City. And mostly we worked Durban 4 times. We worked for every Saturday there, and twice down in Cape Town. So, and it was Big Shawn. My memory's bad. Too many hits to the head, but his name was Big Shawn, and he was the champion down in Cape Town.
Okay.
And that was wild about over there. Everything was in rounds.
Okay. So like
You know,
European
I
style,
never
basically.
experienced the round thing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get a timeout and a break. Which you got some water, and believe me, every round I needed some water. Right? In between rounds, I'm going to tell you, it was 90 degrees over there or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was definitely an experience. We went over with Matt Bourne, CB Offie, a guy from Pennsylvania here, Pittsburgh here, good buddy of mine still with Tarantula, and two midgets. We all went over there at the same time, and we were there for over 30 days,
Yeah.
and it was a good turnout. Good, every week at Durban, it got a bigger and bigger crowd, and we sold out Cape Town. The second time was sold out. They wanted me to stay, but I'm like, my wife was pregnant
Okay.
with my son, and I said, look, my wife's having a baby in January, and this was like end of like October. He wanted me to stay to December. I said, my son comes early. I can't be over here, But he wanted me to stay. He goes, I can't afford it to send you back. And I said, well, buddy, that's the way it's going to have to be. If anything, maybe I can pay and you pay me better money when I come over there. But I wasn't going to stay there by myself either. Everybody else wasn't going to stay. And I'm like, I ain't staying over here by myself. The way that country was,
Yeah.
seeing people get beat up, stabbed on the street, people getting cut, thousands of people from the hotel down to the shoreline, living on the streets.
Yeah.
The worst I've ever seen in poverty. You know,
Jeez. Wow. That's crazy.
and you hear what's going on today there, so you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's in the news every day. So,
Mhm.
um, how how did you end up becoming a moondog? And how did you get approached to doing that? I mean, there's kind of a history with the moondogs. There's been several different moondogs. So, and you're probably one of the only surviving members of in
Yeah,
the history.
I know I did the tours over there for the SWS
Yeah, in Japan. Yep.
in Japan. Sato got me over for them. They were grooming an ex sumo wrestler
Hmm.
to be the big champion or whatever, and then Earthquake was going to wrestle him in the Tokyo Dome.
Hmm.
And here that was that I think it was March maybe or April,
Okay.
and they didn't invite me back for that because all the big names were going over there from the WWF. But I
Okay.
had three or four matches with this kid, and he was man, he was supposedly 600 pounds. And when I was working against him, he was either 350, 330, somewhere around in there.
Wow.
Bigfoot, he was 6'7". And here during the match against the Earthquake, he was got on the mic and exposed the business to all the Japanese people, which is they're bigger kayfabe over there than here, So
Yeah, it's treated like a legitimate sport over there, and with the newspapers and stuff.
and he got on there, it's all blabbed it on the microphone, jumped out of the ring and left. They never got to work each other, so I never got invited back. So next time I went
Interesting.
back was with the Moondogs.
Okay.
But so that was like 92, 93, somewhere around there, maybe 94.
I th- well, I
First, I
just
went
watched.
back. I went with Spot to get back to that story. I
Yep.
Richard Lee, the manager of the Moondogs at that time, called me at work. I was working that day at a bar, and I was filling in for somebody, and I got a phone call, and is this Bubba? I said, yeah, this is Goliath, whatever he said. And he goes, this is Richard Lee. I go, get the hell out. What's up, Richard? He goes, hey, you got an opportunity to become a Moondog. Would you be interested in coming down? And then went on to like you got to bleach blonde your hair, get the blue jeans, cut them up, fray them over the knee, fray them down a little bit, and bleach them and have a rope belt. If you can find that,
Hmm.
and bleach your hair. So I said, yeah, when do you want me to down there? So I got a call back from him, and next thing you know, I was on my way down there as a Moondog.
Right.
I tagged with Larry Spot, and then after about 3 months of him, I couldn't take him anymore.
Why was that?
Well, he was, he was a backstabbing, thieving. I don't want to get too much involved in it, but I questioned him on something about, we're splitting money on the pictures, and a lot of times I was like, wait a minute, we did more than 20 pictures, Polaroids.
Right.
And he said we only did 10. And I'm like, dude, I was counting. I'm not a bozo. I didn't, it wasn't like I fell asleep after the match tonight. Now we're selling pictures. I know how many pictures we took together, and I was getting shorted
Yeah.
on that and shorted on some other pictures. And then we were working against the Men on a Mission, Mabel and his cousin. What was it?
Mo and Mabel, and then I think what was the guy that was the manager?
Well, he did. They didn't have
Yeah.
a manager. They got somebody
Okay.
down there, either Paulie Dangerously or what was his name? He was down there for a little bit as a manager. I can't. He was a good-looking guy. I think he worked in a business
Yeah.
for a while and then became a manager. But he
Yeah.
was starting to get the guys to go behind my back and load me up and sneak stuff, extra hits on me instead of what the heck's going on. I'm getting hit with boards and 2x2s and hey, it wasn't like they were gimmicked. I don't mind, getting hit with a half-inch pine board, but not some solid piece of wood that hasn't been rigged.
Right. Right.
I don't take kindly to that. Hit me over the back of the head when I wasn't expecting it. But Me and Mabel almost got into it, and in the hallway, I called him out in the hallway, and here Jerry the King Lawler. And then when I opened the door, was ready to come busting in. There's Jerry the King Lawler and Macho Man give me the eye, like, "What the hell are you doing?" I was like, "Hey," calmed down out in the hallway, and more or less, I said, "That's it." After that, I got out of the business, and then got called by Spike to come back down and work with Spike and Richard. And I guess 2 months, and then next thing you know, we went to Japan with Doug Gilbert and Eddie Gilbert.
Okay. Where was that in Japan? Did you go?
We went. It was Wings.
Wings. Okay. Yep.
So we were over there. We were supposed to be there for like 30 something days, and we left after about 20 something because they brought some other group in there, some tag team. We were supposed to be the new coming, the Moondogs coming over there and getting a lot of work over in Japan and getting paid well,
Right.
And they brought these guys in here. They stole gimmicks from other people before, and that's why they got fired. And was selling the gimmicks, people's clothing, people's their stuff. What they went to the ring in, and here they hired them back. And I'm sitting there. Look, man, I just want to get noticed, and But Doug's like, "Well, you think it's right?" I go, "Doug, you're 100% right. I'm just bummed out. I want to keep working and making money, man." But we left. To prove a point, So
Yeah.
and I respect Doug for that thing. I was just upset,
Yeah.
because I wanted to make some money, but the deal was right. We should have left. You bring in two clowns like that to steal gimmicks, and thievery in the business was bad enough as it was,
Right.
People breaking into your gym bag or your suitcase and stealing money off you. Yeah, you had to put money and credit cards in your boot and go out to the ring. It was, which, hey, part of life. Sure, it was a lot worse in
Yeah.
prison, but but
So what?
it was a different experience.
Yeah. Did you like working in Japan for the two
Oh, I
trips
loved it.
that you made? Yeah.
Being treated great. They
Yeah.
treated you like a god over there. A lot of times it felt like you were Godzilla. But the people, a lot of people were small. I'll give it that. But a couple
Right.
guys over there were 6'7" I worked against, and some of the things they did in Wings, landmine matches and barbed wire matches and the scaffold matches. I seen a guy break his foot. He come out of the scaffold match, and he fell to the ring, and his ankle busted right underneath him. You could watch it live. You watch it on screen, and his ankle just turned right underneath him. Oh man! The other guy, a flash bomb went under his shoulder, and I thought it was fake blood. And here he was sitting at the back of the bus. And we were going to another town, and everybody was talking to him. And all of a sudden, I turned my head, and the guy's showing his back. And I went, "Hey, is he the guy that was just on TV?" We were watching the matches on the bus TV. And and he showed me his back, and I went, "Get that." And I'm telling you, it had to be almost a half-inch thick of dead skin on his back.
Oh God.
And as round as a softball, and I'm like, "Wow, man, that was bigger than that? That was 6 months ago or whatever, how long ago it was." And you could tap on
Yeah.
that scab, but it was hard as a rock.
Oh.
And I was like, "Dude, I hope they're paying you well for that land ball mine going on."
I mean, you worked Memphis, which was known as a pretty kind of like the precursor to like hardcore wrestling and stuff like that, like the stuff that they would pull out. But then you're working in Japan for Wings, which is pretty damn hardcore,
Yeah,
with all the crazy
baseball
stuff.
bat barbed wire matches,
Yeah.
barbed wire cage matches, strap matches. Like I said, the scaffold matches, landmine matches. Well, I don't know how many times they did that, but I seen many of their, seen it on TV on the bus, seeing what they did over there before we came there. As the Moondogs, and I was like,
Right.
"Wow, these guys, man, you got to get hit with a baseball bat with barbed wire, or get picked up and slammed on barbed wire." I wasn't into that, but I fell into the barbed wire cage match, and that definitely, yeah, And I don't want to do that again. But I would have went
Nice.
more with it. I
Yeah.
didn't getting hit with chairs, boards, and that. I can't count as many chairs as I got hit with as a Moondog or boards broken over my head. But excessive stuff, I just couldn't see it. It wasn't worth
Yeah.
it.
I mean,
You're
it gets worse, especially like today, the stuff that they do on TV today, you
right,
know?
right.
Yeah.
If I'm getting paid $1,000 a night down in Memphis, I would have gladly taken 4 or 5 chairs in a row, 6 chairs, whatever. But as the business went, we weren't getting that type of money a night.
Right.
So when you
Yeah.
got $1,000, $1,500, maybe at best a $2,000 a week paycheck. When I was in
Yeah.
there as Goliath, and it was even worse as a Moondog. We weren't really under 1,000 much, but Goliath days were better. But the one thing about the Moondogs, I get to sell pictures, which helped
Yeah.
supplement some of the money and covering some travel costs and stuff like that. I was able to get money and save up a little bit, help my sister out at home, and keep myself going down here, down in Tennessee, So
So you ended up going to Smoky Mountain for a brief period. Were you there?
no,
That
I
was,
never got to go unless we wrestled in Chattanooga
yeah.
as the group. But I don't know if that was Smoky Mountain. But I was still with the Memphis stuff. But I worked down in Americus, Georgia against David Sammartino. I went down there
Oh,
with
really?
JT Southern. Me
Okay.
and him, I was let go from the CWA in Memphis. So JT Southern got me a gig down in America, Georgia, and I worked against David Sammartino.
What was it like working with David? I mean, he's
Uh,
kind of an
hey,
obscure name these days. You know what I mean?
he wasn't his dad, but I never worked his
Yeah.
dad. But
Yeah.
he lost a lot of weight. He was down to like 190, looking like a bodybuilder. He
Really?
wasn't
Yeah.
I guess you want to call it the chubby 260 that he was when he was in the WWE. But
Right.
uh, he kind of was into himself. I try to talk to him and say I'm from Pittsburgh too, and I lived in Bellevue. He lived in North Hills. Wasn't that far from my house really, and he just kind of arrogant, kind of had that chip on his shoulder. I'm Sammartino, and I really didn't have much respect for him after that. But
Yeah.
he was
Uh,
okay in the ring. He didn't get out of line. Let's put it that way.
yeah.
He
I
didn't
saw
try to shoot or anything like that.
he had worked for like Herb Abrams, and he made a couple WCW shots, and he had trimmed down a lot, and it was more muscle than, like you said, being chubby, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, you know the story about why he got kicked out of WWF?
Yeah, it was his attitude, and supposedly the Ron Shaw match
Well,
had
yeah,
something to
it's
do
his
with that.
attitude
Yeah,
for sure. But then
yeah,
he didn't finish the match right, like he was
yeah.
supposed to. He
Well,
was
I
supposed to
ended.
go over, and he didn't go over. He let the other guy go over because it was a short crowd. That's the one
Yeah,
thing I learned quick. It don't matter how big the crowd is, you still put on the show.
I interviewed Ron Shaw about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, and he still does not say what the official what it was actually supposed to be. So he's still
So he
keeping.
got
Yeah,
fired. His dad told him he can't do that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And then this is what I heard. Now it's a hearsay thing, but I'm
right.
sure it's correct. And he wanted Bruno to get back in. Said if the only way you're going to get back in, David, is if you bring your dad back for a tag. And Bruno wouldn't do it, so he quit talking to his dad. The guy got you into the business, got your name to you, and then you don't talk to your dad for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
It's a shameful thing. And his dad died without him ever getting to talk to him again. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
knew his twin brothers, Danny and David, and Danny and Daryl.
Okay,
I got to work with them when I was, healing up my leg and being into the tendon circuit. I got the bounce, and
right.
they came in and they worked at the same place I did. So I jag them around about their dad and do and Daryl was the greatest at doing his dad. So I'd love to see somebody put him on screen and let him do his dad because he was good. But other than that, I went
Uh,
back. I went back as Goliath that year that I went down to America, Georgia against David,
okay.
and that's when we got into the looking like Goliath, get the costume, and we had like a week and a half to get it done, and I couldn't get it done. So somebody made Jerry King Lawler made me the Goliath suit with the helmet. It had the brush your snow off your windshield with. It was glued to the top of a German helmet,
Right.
a plastic German helmet, and then he made the Roman things come down the sides, and then they gave me like a breastplate and a shield and stuff like that. It looked good on TV, but other than that, it was
Yeah.
the cheapest thing I ever seen in my life. I said, but you know what? Jerry got talent.
He definitely does. I saw he did like
Besides his wrestling talent, he's
yeah.
not bad a singer, I guess, and a seamstress.
He's made a record. He's done some other things. He's a very good artist. I went to
Yeah. Yeah.
many years ago, probably 30 years ago. I went to a WrestleMania and it was like a pre-show, like get together type thing, meet and greet, whatever. And he was drawing pictures, and that dude's art is amazing.
Yeah.
Like
I've seen
seriously
some of the stuff
amazing.
in the locker room, you know.
Yeah. He was yeah, it was pretty outstanding. Did you go back to Japan and team with Abdullah?
No,
That's not true. Okay.
no, not true. I never went to, just before you asked me, I never went to Puerto Rico either.
Right, right.
Somebody
Do
asked me about Puerto Rico, and I was like, let me just clarify. I've never been to Puerto Rico.
right. I wasn't sure about that.
Not even as a joke, you know.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that or the teaming with Abdullah stuff. I just wanted to try to clear that up
He
because
was
it's
working
something I,
here in a show
yeah.
for a guy named Gene. It was at a
Okay.
country, what do they call them?
Like a
County
country club
fair.
or
County
county fair.
fair.
Okay. Yep.
And the Sheik was there. The original Sheik was on the card. And some of the local guys, Gene and then Abdul the Butcher. And I can't remember who I worked against, but I went out there, and then they were supposed to have a battle royal. And I think it was maybe Sheik versus Abdul the Butcher. It was the main event that night. And they were juicing all over the place. And at the end of the night, everybody was going back in for the battle royal. And I said, hey, nobody contracted me for a battle royal, and they ain't cutting me when I get in that ring. Them guys were all getting cut out there, and I said, no, not for me. I said, you could take some out of my pay, whatever you got to do, but I'm out of here. I'm done for the night.
So, what year did you retire from
In
professional wrestling?
'95, I got married. Right after I got married before I went to South Africa.
Okay.
My wife was pregnant. We found that out before I went to South Africa. So she was due around the end of December, January, and my son was born. I had a.
Hmm.
I said, I didn't see anything coming back from the WWF tryout with the earthquake and typhoon and become a natural disaster. I don't know if I was supposed to become a natural disaster with him. Jimmy Hart got me to set up with it. Next thing you know, I was on the plane heading home, and so then that's when I went to South Africa, and then when we came home from that, my son was born. I said, that's enough. I didn't see
Okay.
any light at the end of the tunnel. And I wasn't getting into the indie stuff and not getting a big pay and stuff like that. It wasn't worth me. I was making more at the door bouncing than I was making at some of the
Right.
shows
Yeah.
wrestling. So,
You didn't try for maybe like WCW or ECW, anything? Because those were kind of, I mean,
well,
WCW was pretty good, but ECW was kind of flourishing at the time, you know?
yeah, they were. And Cody Michaels is a guy from Pittsburgh here. And I got to know him. He wrestled down in Memphis
Yeah. I
during
remember
the
him.
'90s or whatever. He went down to work with and Lawler and Jarrett and that. And Cody come up to me with our kids while we were out at a Safari Sam's or something like that. It was all like a jungle gym thing. And Cody come up to me and goes, "Hey, why don't you try out for ECW, man? They could you really use it?" And I'm like, Shane was in there at that time. I'm sure Mick was just getting out at that time because I worked against
Yeah.
Mick Foley up at North Catholic High School.
Okay.
And the Demolition was on there on the card, and I got to talk to them in the locker room. But I got to work against Hacksaw Duggan, the same thing. And I you know I had a great time in Memphis. That's what
Yeah. Yeah. It's still, one of my favorite territories. I still go back and watch a lot of the footage. There's a lot of times I get done doing work and I'll sit up and I'll just throw on some old Memphis from the 80s or the early 90s. USWA. See, in the 90s, I didn't get the television until it was like the late 90s of Memphis. I got it for a little bit in the 80s, like when it was CWA, and then when it turned into USWA, I had the
Yeah.
Texas version, but not the Memphis version. I didn't get until probably 95 for a few months and then it disappeared.
Yeah. When I went down the first time as a Moondog, they were just, I guess, filling, filling out the contract with them buying the USWA and getting it. And they were
Right.
just got done doing Dallas when I
Yeah.
came down as Moondog Splat the first time.
Right.
And I didn't have to go to Dallas to do the TV. They started doing the TV in Memphis again when I got down there. So that was good.
Yeah,
You
I
didn't
think
have
they
to
were.
get on the bus and
I think
travel like 10 hours at night. And yeah,
I think their original plan was to have like, the Texas program and the Memphis program, keep them kind of just the guys going back and forth each and every week. You know what I mean? And they were trying to, I think it was they were trying to for a bigger expansion and it wasn't working. I
well,
think
they
that's
had like
when,
6 months, from what I heard, they had like 6 months of TV left
yeah,
from the USWA in Dallas.
yeah.
And that's when it quit. Right when I got down there, they were done with it. They didn't have the contract for the TV anymore through, I guess, USA Today or USA
It was
Network or
global,
whatever,
or it was
Global or
ESPN.
something like
And
that. Yeah,
yeah, it was ESPN, and then
some
they
type of
they
network, and the contract was up. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So what are you up to today? And do you keep up with wrestling at all today?
my kids do. My kids got me into it. My son, he's at every wrestling match that comes to Pittsburgh, and he collected belts. He's got all the autographs, and even though I told him everything, but he loves it, and I keep up on it on that. But other than that, I really don't know what's really going on. I know Roman Reigns and Cody Michael. I mean, not Cody
Cody Rhodes.
Rhodes, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and the other guy. Their names. See, the names lose it. His great grandfather was a wrestler. His dad Orton,
Oh, Randy Orton. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Randy Orton.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
about all I know.
Any personal appearances or anything like that coming up for them?
I have a signing, picture signing for Goliath or for the Moondogs down in Pulaski, Tennessee,
Yeah.
at the Kayfabe Cave
Okay.
in Pulaski, and I'll be down there August 23rd for that. It's on a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, but I still got to get the details of going down and where I'm going to stay and all that.
Right.
Fred offered me to stay at his house, so I'd like to take him up on that. So, but I told Fred I got to get back to him because I don't know what this guy's supplying or what he's willing to do with anything, like if he's paying for a hotel and all that. So I got to
Right.
find all that information out.
Right. Right. Cool. Cool.
But that'd be
So
the
if
first signing I've done since I was in wrestling. I mean, I worked as a bouncer, manager of a bar, and I bartended for 25 years after I got out of the business. And I made a lot of money because I told stories.
right.
People love to hear stories, and I had a lot of them. And add a little comedy to them, and sometimes, but no, 99% of them were right on the button. But I got tipped well, and I had a lot of good times at the bar. But yeah, that's over too. So
Yeah. Well, bless you.
body's
Bless
beat up. I'm getting checked out for some nerve stuff and everything like that. But I'm feeling better nowadays. I think that things are working out, and hopefully I can start getting back into doing a little bit more training and stuff like that. But I'm getting into more around the house here, and I just got the pool open, so I'm happy for that. So
you. Well, it's getting to be a nice summer so far. So,
yeah, so well, it's just got up to the temperature you can get in it. We just finally hit 86 here in Pittsburgh, so
yeah, we had our first 80 degree day here today.
yeah,
In sense, it's been kind of a, I guess, cool May into cool June. It hasn't been that warm yet,
yeah,
but
right.
today's the hottest day we've had.
I
So
remember
we,
opening the pool up at the first week of May because it was 90 degrees. I went out there and got that thing open in 3 or 4 days and was swimming. But then it hasn't happened again since. So
Well, I want to say thank you for coming on here today, and thank you for your patience today. I appreciate it.
thank you. Sorry if I, sometimes I drift away and start yakking away because I'm just so used to telling stories down a bar.
No, we love the
It's
that's
like
what we
I'm getting
like
back
here.
into it. It feels like I got hit with a board and I'm going into an interview.
Now we like those stories here, so that's what we do. So thank you
Yeah,
again, and well, hopefully we'll have you back
my
soon.
pleasure.
Make it a point. Check out Pro Wrestling Wire. They got lots of great interviews, lots of great wrestling news. You can check them out online and make it a point to enjoy the best in professional wrestling right here on Pro Wrestling Wire.